Hi, welcome to the Pints and Polishing Podcast. I'm Marshall. That's Nick. You can find us at hypercleanstore.com. If you're going to go check out the products, you want to interact, go over to HyperClean Specialist Group on Facebook or check out another new video that just landed out on YouTube. That's HyperClean Store on YouTube. Great information that you're going to get there. All right, Nick, let's go into some buy and sell. You're up.
Well, I got to sell. As many people know, I grew up in the Midwest, grew up around snow, cold weather. Boy, the cold snap here. We're down. We're going to see some 20s overnight. My guys called me. Water's freezing this morning at some of our customers, and I can't do it. I can't do it. And so I went out to look at this Bronco Raptor, and they were looking at me. And the difference out here, and I've shared this before, is we get steady wind, 30 miles an hour or whatever. So it's 35 degrees and like 30-mile-an-hour wind. Not real enjoyable. When you not an enjoyable look. And I just kind of looked around and I go, I got to find something else. I don't know if that's, the south of Texas, moving back to San Diego, Los Angeles. I can't figure it out. It was even cold in Phoenix this weekend. So the end of the day, I'm going to sell. I don't know how some of you do it. The Northeastern, upper Midwest, North Dakota, South Dakota, those, man, much respect because I got to sell it. I can't. And it looks like we're going to have a week or two of this. I hope that's the end of it. But boy, man, I'm out.
Out, huh? Out.
Just not as tough as I used to be,
I'm
Marty.
selling. Yeah, I'm selling. I'm selling. And I'm buying. Actually, I'm going to buy. I'm going to buy the weekend. I'm going to buy the weekend I had. Listen, it started on Friday, and the excitement started on Friday, and I just kept celebrating through the whole weekend. But it came down to this moment, and those of you that have kids that play sports, you'll get there, right? Kid comes off the field, he's crying. Listen, I thought he played a great game. So, I didn't understand. They're sitting there doing their little thing, and she's consoling them and doing what moms do. And then they look at me like they needed me to step in and help. Okay, what's going on? Well, this other kid had said that, he didn't even deserve to have a fan, right? Just talking trash. And I go, awesome. You got a hater. Like,
Yeah.
that's great. Like,
next time,
so
take a swing,
talk
dude.
to him about what it means to have haters, the people that, in the game and why they say things to you and all that stuff. And I just go, you know what? Haters going to hate, right? And you say that. And you go, what goes around always comes around. And I just go, yeah, that's why I'm still buying my weekend because we got hated on. There's people that talk some serious noise behind our backs and went and told people about this and went and complained about it. Like, yeah, well, came around, huh? Came around. And we're still in it, Nick. I'm happy to be here with you, brother. And not everybody is what it seems to be. So, listen, I had a great weekend celebrating
some
that.
people have to sell to keep their company going. So,
Huh.
and make hostage videos, which is kind of weird. But at the end of the day, I think when you see your stepson have this issue, are you the type of sports parent that goes, "Hey, dude, you don't let people talk to you like that," or you got to go at them, score on them, push them around, bully
That's me.
them? That's me too. See,
And
my
that's what I
whole
told
thing
him. I
is,
said, listen,
yeah,
he's mad at you because you kicked his ass out on the field.
yeah,
Like, the kid he was a mean player, which is all good. People play whatever they
yep.
do. And it's like, no, you win the way you get them. So I taught him this, right? And I was like,
Oh yeah, yeah, and
why does
the
everybody
shush
do
button.
this? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you. But if it goes past a certain one, you're gonna have to you're gonna throw some hands. I mean, you're gonna have to put them down. That's what you're gonna have to do.
Yeah.
Been interesting. A lot of news broke in the last 4 days that you're referencing, and for all those people that thought they knew, coming out of SEMA, we kind of told you the scuttlebutt was somebody was going to be on the move on the way out, and that's what we have now.
Oh, so interesting for the beer of choice today. It actually was a gift. For some reason I get at Christmas time, people send me beer.
Yeah, no
I'm
doubt.
in.
We
I'm
take
in.
that right out of your pay.
Roulette Russia. And apparently it's a game. And I said, well, yeah, it's called Russian roulette.
Yeah, I
They
don't think you
didn't
wanna
quite
play that
understand
one.
that.
Yeah.
So, it is a game though because you don't really know what you're getting. I've had some interesting beers with this one, some easy ones, and then some pretty rough IPAs. So, I'm diving into the Imperial IPA. It comes in at a 7.6. So, hey, about midway through the episode, you might have to take us on home. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think it's fascinating you bought the weekend since you've been on vacation for, like, 10 days. So you're just buying more vacation, more time off, so everybody knows. I thought
That's
you were
what
gonna
you
say,
got
"I'm
to do,
buying the
right?
weekend," because you know what? I only worked 5 days in the last 3 weeks, so I'm really living the life over here. Plus, I got sick.
All right. So besides the sickness, yeah, unfortunately it's still there, but it's getting better. As I talked to a couple other people around the area, especially in the industry, there's multiple people through the Midwest are all, ugh, it's terrible. It's going around. But what's been shocking for you as you've been looking around? Like, what do you think's been the most shocking thing for you as you started? You mentioned in the episode we just did, you spent quite a bit of time. We talked about some things you've been seeing in groups. I think for me right now, one of the most shocking things that I've seen is the amount of people in the specialist group have been throwing on coatings. Like it's January, but we've got
Yeah.
people throwing on Uno, Dos, Sparta. We got who was it? Somebody, Drew, already doing 2 Sparta installs already for the year, and it's just like love it. I love seeing the amount of guys throwing coatings around.
Yeah, I think, for a lot of people, especially in my neck of the woods, if you're kinda, let's just call it south, of the Mason-Dixon line, I think a lot of guys are finding ways to make it a year-round business, which is really great. That wasn't always the case, right? I mean, even in
Yeah,
pardon me, in Tulsa, it was hard to make it a year-round
yeah,
business
yeah.
probably when you
Mhm.
started. And we're just seeing the growth of so many guys. We're seeing, the positives of selling a varied package system, being able to bring people in at different levels. Because remember, a lot of people probably took delivery of a lot of cars in November and December. They were in the holidays, so they didn't want to do anything. So January is a perfect time to jump on some of those customers and get them right with their car that they picked up in November or December. I think it's fantastic because I get there's a lot of guys that are going to listen to this and say, "Hey, man, I'm under snow. It's really difficult for me to operate." That's probably true, but we're seeing a bigger percentage of, especially the U.S., who are being able to operate year round, even if it's bad weather. So that means that they're doing a good job fostering relationships with their customers, getting them to buy in that it doesn't matter the time of year. Get your car protected, get your car cared for, come in for a paint correction, come in just to get the salt off the car, whatever the case may be. I think that's really promising. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think the detailer is set up for a really good 2024. I don't think
Mhm.
that's necessarily the case on the manufacturing side of things for a lot of companies, as we saw somebody trying to bail out at the beginning of 2024. I think it's a good year for the detailers that have set themselves up over the last couple years to be very easy to do business with.
Yeah, I agree. And let's go ahead and ask the question because people will say it. Listen, I already talked to people up in New York. What they get like 8 inches today or something? I mean,
Oh
they,
wow.
yeah, they were getting hit. So you know how I guess how low is what people say. How low can I go? What's
Yeah.
the lowest temperature that somebody can put a hyperclean coating on a car? I mean, technically, you could get pretty down there if you want to wait long enough. It kind of becomes
Yeah.
more of how long do you want to wait for it to flash? Is more of
Yeah.
how much time do you want to take?
Yeah. I think, look, you can't have the coating freeze. Let's be clear. That's your breaking point. So if your the car you're working on's been sitting outside, whether it's outside your shop or, outside at the customer's house and it's been below freezing for a week, you're going to need to put that somewhere where the car can come up to some type of temperature, whether it's the customer's garage or bring it into your shop or whatever. But the reality is, as long as the coating doesn't freeze upon application, all you're playing with now is how long it's going to take for the coating to flash for you to, level it off the surface. But there's some interesting comments being made by people about curing of a coating. As long as the coating stays can get on the surface and stay up to temperature above freezing, yeah, it's going to take it longer to cure, but it should still cure, right? What in the summer, what may take 12 hours, 24 hours to make you feel comfortable on a full cure or getting towards full cure, Yeah, you could be looking at 3, 4, or 5 days before the full curing is done. That's just gonna be dependent on the temperature that this car is dealing with, but there's nothing to be concerned about as long as you can get the coating on safely and not have it freeze. I think you're pretty much okay.
Yeah, I agree. Now, there can be some horror stories though putting on a coating. What's the worst? Have you done something really bad on me? For me, the worst I've done if I put on a coating and mess something up, because that's some people would be like, oh, well, you mess up. Like you can
Yeah, yeah.
by
For sure.
leaving it on and then not wiping it off. That
Yep.
was me. And like, oh, brutal. I just had all these little dots. I came in that, fortunately, it was on my own vehicle. So, fortunately, like other people, which was cool to see, plenty of people inside the specialist group were spending time over the holidays working on their own vehicle, getting it ready again for the new year. I do a very similar thing a lot of times. And last year, that's what happened. I put it on the side mirror, got sidetracked. Something happened. The next day I walked in, I go, oh my
Yep.
word. Like,
Yeah, that's
oh,
that I mean, if you look at my first few years of putting on coating, because you remember it was all wet towel method, and
that was terrible.
there would just be times you'd kind of forget about
I
the
try to
little bits
forget
and
those days, Nick.
yeah,
So
yeah,
they're blocked out of my memory.
before I had a good process, it took me some time to realize how to break up the car. So you'd always, not always, but there'd be times, like you said, you'd miss a mirror that you had coating on and you forgot to go back and level it. You know, A pillars, B pillars, all those things, all those little trim pieces you were putting coating on, and you'd be like, you come back the next morning, you'd be like, oh no, I
Yeah.
forgot to take that off, and that's when you used to have to sand it off. So yeah, I've made a load of those mistakes. And anybody that tells you they haven't made a mistake coating cars really just hasn't done that much work, right? I
Yeah.
mean, the more work you do, the more likely it is you're going to just miss something, forget something. Forgot you put it here, didn't level it in time, those kind of things.
When did you have to learn to look at your coating after the wet tail technique under different types of lighting? For me, that happened after I'd pulled it out. Everything looked great. And then you get over into a cloudy area. And so
Oh
when we
yeah,
drove the vehicle back, suddenly I started seeing things and I was like, that was not over in the sun, but now we're in the shade. I'm definitely here at this
yeah,
customer's house. And I'm going, what are all these smears and shadows? And like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah. So learning to have that warm light and then that bright light, was a definite learning experience, which helps you with that. I'll tell you this, pretty early on, because those early coatings were so bad, I learned a lot of hard lessons.
yeah, I was pretty
I mean,
much like car number 3. So I'm
yeah,
with you. Like,
I was like, "Oh my god, what did I do? Why did I do this?" I was questioning why I was even putting coatings on cars. It, you know, that's what's so great about now, right? And I think this is kind of the unfortunate part with all the noise in ceramic coating is that people don't realize that you go back to 2009, 10, 11, the vast majority of people wouldn't have not even been able to get a coating on a car because it would have been such a disaster. And so you hear all these people speak negatively of ceramic coatings now, and there's a ton of confusion in the market. Obviously, we all see it, right? Somebody making claims, 10-year coatings, lifetime coatings. We make coatings for everybody, so we're going to make a coating that magically doesn't work, even though we've been making coatings for a million years, supposedly. There's a lot more confusion in the market, but it's never been a better time to apply ceramic to your car if you know what companies to do business with, right? The only difference is now you have to find the reputable companies, which is a little bit of a headache for a lot of people getting their start, whether you're an enthusiast listening to this or you're a professional. But I mean, not having to go back to those days where you had to have two or three different colored lights, you had to use a wet towel around the car, you had to do. I mean, it's
did you get the
incredible how far.
did you get the light that had the little remote and
Oh
you could
yeah,
change the
yeah,
colors? Yeah.
100%, 100%.
I
You
did
didn't have
too.
you didn't have a choice. If you were going to coat enough cars, what were you going to
Mhm.
do? Go out into the sun and be like, "Oh, this is awesome." Get into the another garage with different type of lighting. Go, "Oh my god, what did I do to this car?"
Mhm.
I mean, you had no choice. That's what I say. I mean, I look at it now and I go, the really unfortunate part of where we're at with coatings now is that people should be really using a lot of reputable stuff, right? I mean, it should be really easy to find reputable stuff, but there's so much confusion in the market. but it's so much better than having to work with a coating company or coatings that were so not user friendly. And when I say the vast majority of people couldn't get them on cars, we sanded entire cars that other shops messed up. I mean, and that was a regular occurrence, as you know. So don't ever think we're just in a different place, right? We're in a much different place and a much more confusing for knowing what to do, but we're in a better place on the application of coatings by a long shot.
So, were you in a good place mentally if you did what Donald did? So, Donald did what I've done, and not all the water got out of the cracks, right? So, he had a
Yep.
story. He was working on a BMW, 1:30 ish or so, I think he said in the morning. Burning those midnight oil. Like, I'm with you. Sometimes doing it late at night, and you're going along, and then that little bit of water comes out of a crack. Oh, it's
Yep.
terrible. I've seen also where a guy was sweating and sweat dropped right as he went to go wipe. And it was so bad he had to sand it off. Like, there's no doubt. You get Trey, you get into Sparta, and there's that little bit of water that you get on your applicator. You're in for a
Yeah.
mess. Not a
Yeah.
fun night. Did you cuss? I cussed. I
Oh
threw
yeah.
things. I was
Oh yeah.
pissed. Like,
Yeah. One of the worst times I ever had it happen was when I got water on the towel. The water
mm,
came out of the crack onto my towel and I'm going to level it. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Then I went and felt the edge of the towel and I'm like, oh no. Like basically just wiped that whole section with a wet towel. And I just got these little streaks, right? Most of it leveled okay, but and so all of a sudden that whole area, heavy compound polish.
yeah.
Actually, what I do a lot of times is now I go back as fast as I can and try to reapply.
Mhm.
I'm like, let me just see if I can get this to reactivate itself. Again, you get into tougher coatings, that's a little bit more difficult. But if it doesn't reactivate, I just leave it for the end. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to deal with this right this second because I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to go ahead and apply it to the car and I'm going to come back and do this whole panel again. Just go ahead and compound and polish it. And there's probably nothing that makes you more pissed quicker than that.
Mm. Absolutely, absolutely. Because you think you've gotten all the water off is one part. Like, I just spent 30 minutes blowing this out. I spent all this time. And or you go, hey, I spent 6 or 8 hours on this vehicle and now I'm towards the end and oh crap. Right?
Yeah,
Like,
you get
crap.
into like some Lambos, some Ferraris that have all these little different edges of body panels and trim pieces. I mean, water can stay in there in perpetuity. The worst used to be the back of the Cadillac Escalade,
Oh
the
yeah.
way it used to
Mhm,
be
mhm,
designed with that one trim piece. You couldn't get water out of there. I mean, you had to almost take the
mhm.
trim piece off. Like it would just stay in there for a week on end. It didn't matter. I mean, your shop could be 400 degrees and that thing would still have the same problem. It would just be water in there.
So, and plenty of people are going to be like me, Nick. We want to know in 2024, are you going to be going camping? Right? Are you? Are
Now,
you going to be
now,
a camper this year?
which kind of camping though? Is it
I
the
don't know.
living room
Just
camping, or is it like camping on the ground? I
like
mean,
in
we
my
got to
own
make
living room camping
living room
or
camping. I'm not. I mean, I'm not. I'm all for that. I mean, let's go ahead and just take a big, fifth wheel out there. That's my living room in the woods. I would be okay with that. Am I going to be sleeping on the ground? No. I mean, unless I go hunting or something, I'm not doing that.
all right. Well, Connor was working on an RV. So he wants to put Trey on, wants to know how it's going to go, all that type of stuff. Listen, Trey's going to go great on RVs,
Yep.
and if somebody's listening that has one, you'd want to go with a pro on putting Trey on. But, if you got one that you want to put your own coating on, you could go Uno, no problem whatsoever. Uno goes great on any of the recreational equipment that people want to keep protecting. Definitely, you can put Uno on anything. If you're a pro that's wanting to do it, Trey, or a higher enthusiast, right? You
Yeah.
know, definitely you can put a Trey on the camper and go great.
Yeah, and I just tell people when you're working on those types of vehicles, boats, that kind of thing, you want to make sure you really, really load up your applicator. It is what it is, right? It's a more porous surface usually. It's got a different type of coating on it or a different type of paint system on it if it's big enough. Go ahead and load up the applicator. Don't be scared to use a great amount of product. That way it can kind of build up into the paint system that, they're not like car paint. Car paint is very, very thin, very, very shallow pores. You got much deeper pores, a much more porous system. Make sure you load it up.
Yeah, load it up. And listen, I wish I would. Did you used to ever clean RV? Did you ever get into RV cleaning? We
I've
had
done I've
accounts
done
that we would
I've done
go.
a couple RVs, but I got to tell you, I'm out.
Yeah,
I'll let you guys make the big money on that. That's just not my specialty.
listen, those dirt drip lines. Oh, terrible. Because most of the guys would never clean the very top roofs.
Oh yeah,
So, it would just constantly keep dripping and we'd be back there scrubbing them down. And most of the time we'd just have to use straight degreaser, right? I
I
mean,
know.
you're not being friendly on it. You just got, but you got to get those lines off because we would be at like camper dealerships and stuff like that. Or, people were out camping and they want to come back. Listen, coating now on a camper, I'm in. Absolutely. You're not going to have to worry about that. Like, even if you don't clean the top of the roof, those drip lines aren't going to matter anymore. Like, absolutely, you should coat it just to
Yeah.
not have those. Like, absolutely. All right. So we saw a couple cool Chevy trucks recently, right? A couple cool Chevy trucks that came through the specialist group. Has there ever been a time for you that you've gone, oh, I'm so excited to see a Chevy? For me, absolutely. I'm usually a Ford guy, right? I've said this. I'm usually a Ford guy when it comes to rentals. But recently I got stuck in a Fiat. Oh,
Oh, there you
joy,
go.
right? Now, it was fun because it was a stick shift. And I got to have a lot of fun stick shifting a little tiny car. But pedal to the metal, fifth gear, trying to go up a hill, and on the highway, I learned very quickly that there was Fiat lane and the other lanes because I would try and pass people and I kept realizing it was all these Fiats that we kept passing. I just go, oh my word, right? Like, can we get? And then suddenly I saw this big light, this light flashing, like you almost blink, right? You ever done that where it's like, oh my word, who is this guy? Like, what's this
Yep.
big bright like? And it was that glaring silver around the Chevy part of an emblem. And I go, okay, I'll get back over the Fiat lane. And it was Dustin's favorite, the Traverse, flying past me like a rocket. And I'm going, yes, because I could have gone for a Malibu, right? Like, I could have
Yep.
at least gone for a Malibu, but
Yep.
here I am with a Fiat. Oh, I would have
Trying to
died
save
for a
that
Chevy.
cash.
Give me a Chevy.
Yeah. No, I'll tell you this about the stuff we're seeing in specialist group. I think it's one of those things that nostalgia for me around Chevy, Ford, anything is now sort of those 90s, early 2000s Chevys, Fords, whatever. And then when you're talking about, I think somebody shared a 2002 Chevy truck in the
Yeah.
specialist group, and it had like 30,000 miles on it, 35,000 miles. You know, as you're starting to move into electric vehicles, these things are going to become more and more rare to see. And I'm always going to be excited to see them, right? Because that's kind of when we came up. I started driving when these trucks and these cars got popular. That's why I keep telling everybody, what you're seeing now in the car market, especially, let's call it, bring a trailer, cars and bids, those types of places is 90s and early 2000s are pretty desirable. Well, why? Guys of our age group grew up with those cars. So when you see them, for some reason, if I see like a 1957 Ford truck, I'm not that excited. I say, "Oh, it's a cool truck." But when I see that 90s, 2000s, I'm like, "Wow, I remember the buddy that drove it or the dad that had it from our neighborhood or whatever." And it just kind of brings that back to you. And not to say I'd go buy them, but I think it's cool to see that somebody has a car, truck so low mileage that I kind of grew up around.
And Chevy was my first truck. So you're right. I think when I saw that, yeah, he had a 2002 come in, and then Kimberly had a 97, and
Yeah.
that
See,
was cool to
the
see too.
97 to me is the one that kind of sticks out in my brain for some reason, maybe because we had so many. That was kind of the construction worker car truck
Yeah,
back then, much more than Ford in my neck of the woods, because we had a Chevy plant in and around my city. So that was like the thing people drove, right? And again, remember, trucks weren't as
like
popular
a
either.
rock.
Yeah, there you go. but trucks weren't as popular, right? So the only people that had trucks were like guys that own a plumbing business, guys that had a carpentry business. It wasn't like an everyday driver the way we see trucks now. So yeah, that Kimberly's probably is the one that I had the most nostalgia for when I saw it.
Yeah, and it was for me too. So, growing up, I wanted a Chevy. I wanted a Chevy truck. Unfortunately, but I wasn't going to be that kid. Unfortunately, I didn't get what I wanted, but fortunately, my dad gave me a truck. But it just happened to be an S10. Like I just was
Hey,
like,
S10s were something back then. They were
well,
something.
yeah, but I've talked to some people that are in that low rider, have been around. Like, it's what it needed to be. It needed to just go ahead and put some ground effects and just like,
Yeah.
that's what it should have been. I really wanted that, what, sports side. Chevy had that sports side that had
Yeah.
that flare that kind of came out around the wheel. Like, that's what I really wanted.
Yeah.
What was I gonna do? I wasn't gonna get like, I was happy that my dad gave me a truck. So what am I gonna like? I took
Yeah.
care of it the best I could, but I also drove out of it. And that's
Yep.
when I learned to love parking lots with snow, right? Anybody with snow right now, you're gonna love neighborhoods and a two-wheel drive vehicle with stick shift, real wheel, like, and a stick. Oh man, I loved going around the neighborhoods in snow.
Yeah. No, I agree. And like I said, when you see these come through the specialist group or somebody sends you a picture or something they're working on, of course, we all have when a new car, it's a cool new car, we all have the same reaction like, "Oh man, I haven't seen one of those," or "Yeah, I saw one the other day, it looks great." There's something about the cars, the trucks, the things that you saw kind of growing up in your area that's going to they always hold that special place where you're like, "Hey, I wouldn't buy one now, but cool to see."
It's always just great to go back to memory
Oh
lane
yeah,
in a
for sure.
sense.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Who else is going down memory lane? Did you watch Saturday Night Football last night?
On Sunday night, you mean?
Yeah. What did I say? Saturday? Yeah, my bad.
Yeah.
Sunday Night
Wow. You've
Football?
had a lot of
Yeah.
days off, so they're just running together. I get
Well,
you.
listen, the medications, still kind of running through my head too. So it is
Yeah.
what it
No,
is.
Sunday night football. I
And
did
hey, I
watch
already
some of it.
said midway through the episode, you're gonna have to be carrying us because
Yeah.
I haven't really been drinking a lot, and this is a
Yeah.
7%er. So
Yeah,
did you watch
I
it
did.
though? Bills
Yeah.
versus Dolphins? Great
Yeah, I
game.
did. Yeah.
What'd you think? I'm pretty excited about Geico coming back, and they're bringing back
Oh,
the
yeah. I
Caveman.
did see they're bringing the caveman back. That was I'll say this, commercials leave a lot to be desired these days. Not that I watch a whole bunch of commercials, basically only during sporting events. I'm guessing I'm kinda like everybody listening. It's the only time you really ever but bringing the caveman back, that's smart. I mean, it was a good. It's what you've been saying about Budweiser for years. Like, why don't you bring the frog back? Why don't you bring what's up back? Why don't you bring all that stuff back? It was funny in the moment. It's going to be funny now if you do it right.
Yeah,
Yeah, the caveman stuff was hilarious.
and he's going to be. They're doing that just in time for the Super Bowl too.
Oh yeah, they got something locked and ready. You can bet on it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, did you ever, when you were getting started, and we've kind of talked about this a couple times, but people will always ask. We had another question. Kevin was curious about it too. He's listened to some episodes, so he wanted to know about meeting some high end and influential people. Do you go to the meet and greets? Do you go to the chamber stuff? And I did go to those, so I can talk about my experience when I've gone to them. And I went specifically heavy when it came time for having a car wash. Like, we were in a town, so that it was a kind of a new growing part of the town, and they really pushed the chamber and they really pushed businesses coming together. I was like, cool, yeah, why not? I'll go.
Yeah,
Like, maybe we can get some stuff going. Yeah. It was mostly everybody just wanted to give me their cards. It's a lot of lawyers or startup lawyers or family law or, realtors. I mean, half the place is realtors, and that's okay. Really, like, realtors do need to clean their cars, but if they're at that level, they're really starting out probably more like everybody else. They're trying to get their
yeah,
name out there. You mentioned golf courses. You mentioned some other places that might be a little bit more intimidating for people, though. If we're going to
yeah.
try and meet an influential person, maybe it's cars and coffee, like you talked about.
Yeah, I think cars and coffee. Your city, every city is going to be different, but they're definitely going through a renaissance, meaning they're getting cleaned up. They're getting a little less frequent. The people that are throwing them usually have some business interest that they're trying to tie into that show, which is good because it's bringing business people there. They may own their own business. They may do media stuff. They may be realtors. They may be whatever. I think it's the chambers, the Better Business Bureau used to be a big thing. Those kinds of things. I would rather go call on insurance agents at their office personally,
Oh,
right?
that's a
And
good
I would
one.
be trying to find people that are in high end offices, high end insurance offices in a certain part of town that has money, and that's why that guy's thrown up that nice big office. I don't think the chamber and that stuff is a negative. It can get your feet wet with feeling comfortable talking to people, and we know that's the biggest thing, right?
Good
I
point.
I think
Good point.
I think if I'm a guy and I'm trying to go meet people, the one thing that'll put people off of you, like, don't want to do business, is if you've come across uncomfortable. So maybe going to that chamber stuff consistently can get you feeling comfortable about meeting people you don't know. So use it as that. And if good things come of it, great. But get comfortable. What's the old line? Get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? And those kind of places can help you do that. Little business networking groups that you can find online that have a meeting once a month. I know a lot of guys find those groups, do really well in those groups. They make you stand up and talk for 45 seconds or 45 minutes about what you do, and you get to educate the crowd. I think anything that can get you comfortable speaking with people. Because one of the things that we see across the board, and it's not detailers, it's everybody who's starting a business, the men and women that are comfortable talking to people are going to rise to success because the
Hmm.
whole thing is about communication, right? The most undervalued thing is how you communicate with somebody. How can you develop a relationship seemingly out of thin air? And that's what you're doing at the chamber or at a networking group or at a cars and coffee. Are you a cool person to be around? Is actually, for most of us, myself included, a learned skill because none of us are that. I mean, what do they say the number one fear is? Public speaking. Some people would rather die than
Die.
speak in
Then
public,
speak in public. Yeah.
right? So go learn to speak in public. And the only way you're going to do that is, go to something every week, and do that for a whole year. I guarantee you're going to be more comfortable. Therefore, you're going to be better to be in business with. You're going to have more people approach you. You're going to have more people you can approach. Use these things to get comfortable with no expectation that something's going to come out of it because you just don't know. A lot of stuff may come out of it, nothing may come out of it. But if you quit because nothing's come out of it, then you're not really going to stick with it and find yourself in these other groups of people.
Ah, I love that. That is great advice because if I kind of started thinking back to those moments and yeah, you're right. I took it for granted a lot of times that I was just okay with talking to people. Like I would talk to anybody anytime. I always have, And so I guess I was just always put off that they were shoving things at me.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
so I guess to kind of piggyback, I'd say also is don't seem so desperate then. Like everybody just seemed to want to be giving me stuff, and it made me like, I just didn't want to talk to them because they were just shoving things at me. Like, here,
Yeah.
take my card. Here, take this. Like, okay, man, I just wanted to talk to you for a minute. Like,
Yeah.
uh,
But I think that's a mindset thing, right? And that's what you want to get across to anybody listening to this. And I don't care what you're doing, relax. I mean, it's something that I'm telling my 3-year-old like 5 times an hour. Slow down, relax, have the right mindset about going into these types of things where you're not that guy or gal that you were talking about, shoving a card in someone's face. They're trying to get something out of somebody. That stuff becomes apparent to everybody, right? So you just got to just relax, introduce yourself, ask them, hey, what do you do? Hey, what are you up to? Whatever. Learn how to dictate those conversations where you don't come across as, like you said, a great word, desperate. Relax, but learn how to go and talk to people and be a good person to be around in an uncomfortable environment because those are uncomfortable for everybody. Anybody telling you different, they're uncomfortable for everyone. So if you're the most comfortable in the uncomfortable room, you're going to come across as somebody people want to do business with.
yep, cool, calm, and collective. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. So I did something this weekend. I don't know if you've ever done it, but I was trying to listen, I was trying to, cut some corners a little bit. I was trying to, and I just thought, it'd be really cool if I could do this. So I put, I put a couple different things. I put some TRX, I put some foam wash, I put slick, and then I put some glass cleaner all into my foam cannon. Why are you laughing?
Because you didn't do that's work, and you haven't been working that hard these days. So I don't know exactly what you were doing, but so you're trying to clean windows, clean tires, clean the paint. You're trying to do it all in one shot, huh?
All in one shot. I mean, I saw some people on social media, start mixing stuff together. So, I figured I might as well do it. So, is there something that Cody had asked about? So, Cody, some people tried to make it popular where you can mix some stuff together. It, it's just a lot simpler to follow the processes by using Fuego when to use Fuego, use TRX when it's time to use TRX.
Yeah,
Just
I
stay
mean,
with the system.
and the interesting thing is this is being popularized by a specific product that we know is highly acidic in the iron remover, and then being paired with a high alkaline rubber and tire cleaner. Now, one is 2 or 3 on the pH, the other one's 11 or 12 on the pH, and you want to tell me it works better? We can just tell you from a chemistry perspective, those 2 things don't play well together. It looks really cool on the internet. You look like you're cutting a corner, you look like you're doing something, but, with Fuego's a pH neutral iron remover. Leave it pH neutral. Get the benefit out of it being pH neutral because there's so few on the market that actually are. Play with the chemicals safely. And I will say this, we are getting more and more word as our distribution network gets bigger and bigger of a lot of damaged cars when somebody comes in and goes, "Hey, I just saw this car that this guy did. He burnt the whole front end. He burnt the wheels. He did this or I did that." Do not take for granted just working in a safe manner. All that time you think you're saving, all that money you think you're saving, I can guarantee you aren't. You're not doing either. You're not saving time and you're not saving money. And on top of that, you could just make a concoction that makes everything worse because truthfully, you don't know what you're doing. You just don't. I wouldn't know if I weren't a part of hyperCLEAN. I've never been a mixer of chemicals, right? The chemistry is the chemistry. I want it to work how it's supposed to work. I wasn't trying to cut a corner. And by the way, I didn't want to damage cars. Now, did I get a little bit different about chemicals because I was working on such expensive vehicles where guys are working on a Honda Accord or they're working on a Chevy Traverse or whatever, and they think, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is when you finally get that call for those expensive cars and you treat them poorly, you're out of the expensive car market in an instant. So for everybody that wants to advance in their career or you're an enthusiast that's slowly but surely moving your way up the car ownership market, just do things exactly how the product says. I promise it'll work out in the end. Like there's no reason to overthink this, but that's what happens.
All right, Billy and I want to know what's going on in the auction world. What's the latest news? What's happening in the auction world?
Uh, well, it shows you what drinks at an auction can do. I'll tell you that. And I had one of those land on my lap, not maybe a couple years ago, where somebody bought a $300,000 Resto Mod Corvette split window that wasn't worth $5, and it blew up in his driveway. Look, drinks at an auction is the exact thing that Billy is talking about in his post. Basically, a Mustang that's not worth more than 20 or 30,000 going for 52,000. What's going on? Somebody had too many drinks. There's a certain person that are buying those vehicles. They're of a certain age. And as long as the stock market's doing well, those guys are going to overpay for muscle cars. That's what they're going to do. And there's nothing wrong with it. But I've been telling all my customers and everybody that'll listen, the first time that the stock market takes a dive, the muscle car market is going to go kaboom because that's the exact person that's buying those vehicles. The stock market's up, my retirement's doing well. I've had a few drinks. This idiot over here keeps bidding, so I'm going to keep bidding. And I bid up a $25,000 car to $52,000. And if you've never been in an auction house and you think I'm making a joke about the drinking, not a joke at all. People start getting liquored up, money just starts flowing.
Sounds like a good business plan.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're Meekum, the Walmart of auctions, yeah, it's a great business plan. Go ahead and get that fee and knock it out of the park. But I say this all the time. I mean, that's why it's been interesting the last 4 years. So many people accidentally made money on cars that now everybody thinks they're going to make money on cars. We know for a fact that isn't happening. And it really only happened for a very tiny period of time in history.
All right, so there's this other question I find to be pretty fascinating myself. And it's because I guess I just always have asked it internally, but never asked it, with my mouth. I just assumed for my own self what a pass was, right? Like, what does it mean if you put some product on a pad, you put it on the paint, and you make a pass? I just always assumed it meant whatever it is that you considered a pass. I actually didn't know there was a formula. So sometimes to me, a pass was, hey, I'm going to run it this way. I'm going to move it. Okay, this is pretty much good for me. Take a look at my work. It needed some more. I got to do another pass. Then I would get, right? Well, okay, I need to change my pad. Try over here. Okay. Now I'm down to one pass with this pad product combination. That pass was on this speed. My hand speed was X amount. And that's what I went. I didn't know there was actually a formula for a pass.
Yeah, I this is the problem with so many people, quote unquote, training now, or so many people putting stuff out on the internet. I think it's just another one of those things that it's really unfortunate how confusing the information is. I never thought about it that detailed either. If I went over the area that I was working, left to right, or I went over it up and down, that was a pass to me. That was me working the area. And then however many passes, and a lot of times I don't go left and right and up and down. I just go left and right, especially on doors. I'm not real big on trying to move the machine up and down. It's kind of unnecessary. Maybe when I got bored, I would do that, but I kind of just move left to right. It's not that big of a deal. I
Hold
think
on.
there's probably,
So your
yeah.
passes don't even include up and down always?
I
Nick,
mean, come on, dude.
hold on, man. Hold
I
on.
know. Well, you know what
Hold
it
on.
comes down to when you were working a rotary, you didn't do a lot of up and down. So if you
You
came
didn't
from
really
that
do any.
world, you didn't do any. So I just kind of have always had the left to right, whatever. But to me, if you work the area, that's a pass, right? And now what I'm being told is there are guys that go left and right all the way around the area. Then they go up and down, and that's one pass. Okay, great. If that's your system, stick with your system. you know, you're going to work off your system. I still think what I see a lot of times is, especially when guys get on soft paint, they overwork the area. They start to nick up and leave little tails and things like that in the area because they're overworking the area. I mean, that on soft paint. I mean, one of the deaths of soft paint is overworking the area. It's very rarely underworking the area for most people, especially new guys, right? So one of the things that people have to realize and people have to put into play here is they need to understand whatever your system is, that's your pass. But for me, once I went over the area, it was a pass.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty simple, right? Like, I don't know why people complicate it, but it might be because, which we've said, like, there is a system that a lot of people need to follow. So maybe if they follow this system, but, I don't know. Like you said, it does get a little
If you're getting
complicated.
great results, you have a system, right? If you can continually repetitively get great results, you have a system. That's what needs to matter. You need to be the person. Now, again, we're going to be making more content this year so we can go into this deeper. But the way that I come out on it, if I go over the area one time, left to right, that's a pass, right? If I go back the second time, that's a second pass. I don't do the whole I got to crisscross to make a pass. If I've worked the area one time all the way to that 2x2 area or whatever, that's a pass. The other thing is, as you get better at polishing, you should be able to start to see what we used to call seeing through the polish, seeing through the compound.
Yeah.
You should be able to see what's going on. That's going to take some expertise. That's going to take some time with the polish and the compound. That's what makes it so ridiculous that so many guys switch around so often because they don't know exactly what they're looking for as it starts to break down. So, there's another reason guys don't really have a system or they get confused is because they're on their 10th polish of the year, thinking that that's going to solve their problem when it's a technique issue. So, look, it's been made very difficult. I say if you work the area entirely, left to right or up and down, whatever it is you choose, that's a pass. That's where I would draw a line.
Yeah, you mentioned we are going to be putting out even more content, which is great because the content we started putting out recently has been wonderful. Seeing some really cool views, but you want to see what makes Nick laugh? You really want to see what's going to go and make some thick skin? Go on over to TikTok, right? So come on, Nick, let's uncover these. Are
Yeah,
the
guy.
shoes waterproof and comfortable?
Yeah, we get it. We've been getting a lot of evidently getting a
No,
lot
that's
of
a
comments
question.
on
Don't skip
what.
the question. Are they comfortable? Are they
Oh
waterproof?
yeah,
I gotta
yeah.
respond to them, man.
I,
Fans are
I,
wanting to know.
yeah. I wear the same shoes I've worn forever, and people are like, "Oh, they're so clean." It's like, well, I'm not a dirty detailer. I don't know. I can keep my stuff pretty clean, but also I wear black shoes so they don't look ridiculous and they don't look super dirty. I got a comment on what pants I'm wearing. I mean, I got to tell you, I was getting a lot of fashion questions for a guy
Listen,
wearing all black.
I had to delete my response, but I was like, "That's Lululemon. Don't let them joke with you about it."
They might have been. I don't really know. I don't do the shopping, but at the end of the day, uh, we also have great comments where guys are trying to get educated or reaching out and saying, "Hey, man, thanks for showing me this." And then we have the jokesters saying, "Hey, if you're teaching somebody how to clean wheels for a living, you might need to check your life." I mean, we get the whole gamut of it.
Oh, the guy loving the because I didn't say the price immediately that I was running a scam. Like, sure, my guy, you're right. Scamming you right now, right here,
Yeah,
right on
here,
the internet,
yeah.
out in the open.
And you know what? It's a good lesson. I mean, we do talk a lot with guys on this podcast about social media and what they should be doing, but you better be able to have a laugh because if you get popular enough, boy, oh boy, people are going to make their opinions known and they got every right to. We put it out, they can do what they want.
Well, and it almost seems like the more we put out, which was something that we wanted to do, is put more of your face, put more of my face, like put faces on there and really start talking about some things, doing infotainment. Well,
Yeah.
one thing's for sure: you put your face out there, it seems to encourage even more people that you could put like just somebody clean a car and have the digitalize voice of having
Yeah.
the AI say what's going on, but put somebody's face on there and have them say what's going on. Oh man, it seems to like get even more people like, oh gosh, I want to tell this guy like
Yeah. No, it's humbling pretty quick. I mean,
keys to thick skin. Do you have any
yeah,
keys? Like
you well, you got to realize that most people are on the internet to troll all day. I don't think most people are on the internet to get educated about any subject. Not even just detailing. They're just on there to be angry and do whatever. We're talking about the 10%. 90% of people are like, "Hey man, what brush you using? Hey, can you help me? Where would TRX go? Could I use TRX for?" I mean, so we're really talking about the 10%. You're talking about the 10% that are going to just say something off the wall and whatever. I think you just got to look at it like this. People are entitled to their opinion. I feel really sorry for people that feel like they have to do that. So it doesn't really get under my skin because I don't think anybody doing that well in life acts that way. So, I just kind of leave it. And I know people could get offended by that, and that's fine. But I think what it is, man, there's a lot of people that use the internet to do nothing but bitch about something, complain about something, make their voice heard negatively about something. And it's all good. Happens to everybody that I follow on social media. If somebody has a good video and somebody's done something good, you're going to look down and 10% of those comments are going to be really, really poor comments and bad faith comments. And so for all of you creating content, that's all I can tell you is just know 10% of people are going to do what they're going to do. And you just kind of move on and say, "Hey, thanks for watching." I mean, it's really all you can do.
all right, but with the amount of comments that we're getting, I'm spending a lot more time on TikTok now, just getting through
Yeah,
comments and I'll see some, I'll go back and go back talk to this. Like we had one video that hit pretty well. And that was cool to see. We hadn't had a video hit 20 some thousand in a while, so
yeah.
that was fun to see. But wow, uh, can we all just take a moment to go, what's happening with TikTok? I mean, we've joked about it. I think it's been a thing we've said, like this is getting insane, but um, what? Like,
It's over. It's over. I feel bad for anybody that's built their career off TikTok because I thought they would pivot by now. After the holidays, I kind of thought they'd go, okay, by all accounts, people are using it less. You go look at comments. I mean, there's like random, dads and moms out there selling cheese graters for $2 and they're doing this and check it out from the TikTok shop. And you go down in the comments and somebody not being negative, they just go, man, I miss the old TikTok. Man, I miss the old TikTok. Man, I miss the old TikTok. And it just shows you, I think it's a good thing for our crowd listening to us. We've been telling you forever, social media is a money play. It's always going to be a money play. TikTok allowed this to go on long enough. They wanted to get their money back out of all the TikTok creator fund and all this money they put out. It's their time to get paid. Guess what? They turn that faucet on and it is so bad. It is the worst decision. And I'd love to hear your opinion. This is the worst decision I've ever seen a social media platform make.
well, we joked about it before, thinking about who would have done something worse. I'll let you give yours. To me, the only one I ever thought about is remembering like when Facebook would change like the way things showed up on the side, and everybody was like, "Oh my word, I can't do this." Like you
Yeah, that was a
mentioned a
good one.
different one, but it's like, yeah, when they change things that are big, it takes you a moment to go, "Whoa, whoa, hold on, I can't do this again." I I don't know that I've ever experienced something that's gone on this bad to where I even told you earlier, like I'm only on to do the comments or do what I can, and then I'm back off because it's not just that; it's also I don't see anything worthy to watch anymore. I'm not
Yeah.
really seeing anything. We talked about this, but there's just nothing new. It's just all the same old, or the people that we were following, all complaining, and it's just I or I'm still loving the positivity guy that, whatever. I'm not even gonna go there, but
Yeah, I think for those that'll remember, you remember how TikTok used to have a really organized timeline. You would get on and whatever was posted most recently would be at the top and you'd kind of go through and you'd be able to catch up on the whole day within a matter of minutes. When they kind of went away from that and now it was just this was 2 days ago, this was 5 days ago, this was an hour ago and they mixed up the whole
oh,
timeline of
Instagram.
Instagram.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Instagram.
that was to me one of the most boneheaded things, and they still haven't really reversed the damage from that. TikTok went from really fun, really new, really hip to I'm now selling a bunch of stuff off Temu and Alibaba. Some housewife in Kansas City is like telling me why I should buy, this mop or what, and it's like, I don't know, man. There's no skin in the game for that person. So they're just kind of putting more crap out there. And now all of a sudden they're making 50 videos a day and you're just inundated with it just feels like, and again, I thought after Christmas they would have reversed this like now, but it just seems like it's doubled and tripled down.
So you go into, which we joked about before, right? You go into buy some luggage, you got to go into certain stores, and those certain stores are flooded with trinkets.
Yeah.
We've complained over the years that Amazon has now become flooded. Now there's Temu, and now there's Tik. I mean, is the market for trinkets that big that we constantly keep having more and more places? I mean, where in the world are we going to put? I mean, how many trinkets are there for us to buy? I don't
Yeah. And I,
know.
I always ask, like, how big's your house?
Yeah.
I mean, some of these
That's why
people,
we have
so,
storage places, right? Where people go store all
oh,
their
dude,
crap.
there's no doubt if you wanna own something that stays full 24/7, and that's why you see all these private equity people jumping into self-storage because it's like once somebody gets a storage unit, they just have it forever and hardly ever come to it, hardly ever use it, hardly ever realize the crap that's in there. I don't know, man. It's kind of feels like we're coming to the end of the consumerism thing. I think people are wisening up, especially people in my circle. I've been telling you this. One of the fun questions I like asking people is, are you buying more off of Amazon today than you did 3 to 4 years ago? You know that I ask everybody this, and you and I have talked about it behind the scenes.
Still down? Still always
Oh, way
down, huh?
down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have people in my life, successful people that are like, "Hey, we've had a topic of discussion in my house. I don't wanna see," they may have been rich enough to have 5 Amazon boxes a day. I better not see 5 a week. Like, this stuff's not valuable, and I don't want it in my house, and we all went through it, right? I mean, I used to order a lot off Amazon, especially when it was well curated stuff. Now, like you said, it's just trinket city, and I find it gets hard to find some certain things on Amazon now because it's so flooded. I think what guys have to realize, and it's something we talk about internally, and let's share it here, the internet is rapidly changing now. And it really started in 2023. It got really fast changing the second half of 2023. I think the early parts of 2024 are, is TikTok going to figure it out? Is Instagram going to pick up the slack? Because Instagram's still a very, very weird place and how they have it organized. Will Facebook pop more? What's YouTube Shorts and YouTube looking like? Don't just go out there if you're spending time in content and say, hey, I've always been doing TikTok videos, so I'm going to keep doing them. You may have to pivot very quickly, if not right now, and say, TikTok's not a place for me to promote my business. If you're having success with it, put this to the side and just put it in the back of your head. But I don't know very many people that have had success on TikTok monetarily since its inception. I don't know that that was really happening. We talked to a bunch of people that made no money that put hours upon hours a week into it. But I think now you have to look at the platform and go, the user's telling me it's less enjoyable. What are they going to go spend their time on? Because they're going to go spend their time on something.
Well, and a lot of those guys that we were talking to kept thinking that, they would get some influencer money like Instagram did, right? Or they would start getting paid per views like Google did, right? There were some of those guys that really thought TikTok was going to start paying you for views. Yeah, that would have been awesome, right? But no, it turns out they want to pay you to sell $5 trinkets.
And I think at times they did have a creator fund that some people were able to dip into because they were moving millions of views a week. I think that was a very select few people for a very select time by all accounts. And I think now you know what their whole goal was. We want you to go to Temu, we want you to go to Alibaba, we want to promote these things outside of Amazon because again, you're not hearing anything about Amazon on that platform. It's all through the TikTok shop, which is usually cheap trinkets on a Chinese owned platform like Alibaba, Temu, whatever. I think it's unbelievable what we're seeing, but I think the negativity, if you're wasting time on there for your business, you maybe need to rethink that for 2024 unless they make a huge decision to change this terrible, terrible idea.
And for other people that haven't listened to the previous episode, other things that you should go do for 2024, go listen to the previous episode right after this one for how you should begin to be successful in 2024. All right,
Yep.
Nick. Well, I only did one beer. I couldn't do two. I only did my one beer. It was the Imperial IPA. And listen, I'm good. I'm gonna
Yeah.
go take some more medicine. Hopefully I'm better by the next episode.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week.